Okay. Bill Kapitke, this is your opportunity to shine in about 30 seconds, so don't worry. It's just to try and ease you in. So these are personal questions.
Sure.
Okay. So, get to know your core identity. What drives you more, winning or learning?
Oh, interesting. Definitely learning.
Okay. What do you value more, control or freedom?
Freedom.
Okay. What matters more, speed or precision?
Speed.
Okay. What defines you more, discipline or instinct?
Discipline.
Okay. Decision making. When you make decisions, data or intuition?
I would say intuition.
Okay. In uncertainty, act or wait?
Wait.
Okay. Risk for you is opportunity or threat?
Opportunity.
Okay. I knew he was going to say that.
Yeah.
And when under pressure, simplify or push harder?
Simplify.
Okay. Okay. Now, personal edge. What gives you the edge? Focus or curiosity?
Curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you trust more? Experience or analysis?
Experience.
Okay. And what drives you daily? Ambition or responsibility?
Ambition.
Okay. Okay. Bill, that's your 60 seconds of get to know you. So hopefully that's eased you into the next question block. Okay. Now that we actually set the tone with regards to GPO is the key context for our discussion. A $300 billion industry operating on assumed value. Topic one. The missing benchmark. So this is the editorial lens, the missing benchmark. So the GPO model has been in operation for over a century. The industry influences more than $300 billion in annual spend, and yet there's no standard methodology for measuring what a health system actually saved versus what it would have paid without a GPO contract. So Bill, in your view, has there ever been a serious internal effort to build that benchmark that you're aware of?
And the benchmark being what again?
Benchmark with regards to how a GPO is actually functioning and then trying to actually provide that benchmarking capability.
So benchmark on value? Is that what you're referencing?
Could be value. It could be benchmark with regards to price transparency.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that we're so focused on the healthcare GPO model, and you almost forget that worldwide GPOs exist, and they exist in a variety of industries, and they don't look so much like I'll say the U.S.-led GPO healthcare model, largely driven by, in 4 health systems. I think that there isn't the degree of price transparency that you're referencing.
Yep.
And I think that it's quite confused by the administrative fee model and the rebate model and the multiple intermediaries involved. So if you're assessing price to contract, it's not all present the value that a GPO is providing. And so you're not necessarily making the best decision, and transparency, that's due to confidentiality and all the contracts in place. You're not really understanding what the right benchmark for you often is. And the reported then savings on that is a bit confused or inflated.
Wow, because it's deliberate, you think?
I don't think it's deliberate. It's almost like the model that people have accepted over time, and
over 100 years.
Well, I think that it did. It was born in great interest and value to hospitals on the simple concept of, hey, if we pull together our volume and we channel it to a supplier, that benefits them, and we can negotiate a lower price. And on that simple concept, yeah, that works. But over time, when you have so many players and so much math that has to be done and tracking, and it's not all representative at the price at the pump, if you would.
And think about the Amazon model, if you even reflect upon that, right?
Absolutely.
That's the disruptor with regards to how Amazon, I'm not talking about healthcare, I'm just talking about, let's say, the marketplace where people can actually come and buy, where now the consumer is actually dictating market pricing, and then the supplier is actually on the other side.
That's right.
They're competing to actually make sure that they can get part of the wallet share of the consumer.
Yep.
Not happening here.
Right. Yeah, I've often used the analogy on the consumer side compared to the business side. Like if you as a family were buying detergent at $5 a unit, but you learned that your neighbor next door was able to be buying it at $4 a unit, like,
where are you going to go?
Well, yeah, I mean, if for the same detergent, you would be upset about that. Yet for businesses, they live by that as the norm or the understood. And so the consumer model, due to transparency, hasn't been beholden to that sort of discrepancy of price. So no, I think that even to Amazon's case with its growth, and there's Amazon business has grown to over 8 million customers. It is based upon transparent pricing. Yeah.
There you go. Okay. So topic number 2.
Yep.
So good answer with regards to topic number 1.
Yep.
And there's Bill. Seriously, there's no right or wrong. It's just a point of view.
I'm not holding back.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Let it go. So, topic number 2. The one time someone checked. Context. With the GAO, I gave that entry point that the only independent federal assessment of GPO pricing found that a number of categories from a GPO contract price were not lower than the market, and in some cases were higher. And the industry responded with self-regulatory reform, which, okay, as another sort of question. Bill, where have you seen potential room that could allow you to elevate the value health systems can get from partnering with a GPO? And have you tried to implement something personally to try and enhance this?
So, I'll go back and just reference a couple of things here. I mean, the GPOs, and having been with Vizient at the time, and within the early 2000s, it was a real point of stress to consider that the safe harbor might be lifted or might be challenged, and.
So for the viewers, can you actually give them a perspective of what does safe harbor actually mean?
Right. Yeah, there were laws put into place, and you can look up the CFR and study it as much to your heart's content, but that will allow organizations to do this sort of group buying and payment of administrative fees between suppliers and providers. And so the protection of the government, to say we feel that this is for the net benefit of the industry, that there is, this isn't per se antitrust or anti-competitive in nature.
From a viewpoint of a kickback.
Correct. And there were some senators that were beginning to challenge this notion at the time, especially as you have supplier complaints that say we weren't awarded and we're being unfairly blocked, to market. And so, the GPOs had to go through a revisit of maybe what would our model look like if it wasn't protected by the safe harbor. And there are opportunities to operate underneath a different economic model. They just choose not to. And so I think that, there is this, a bit of, a model today that's convenient for providers in one sense, that the supplier will help to pay the administrative fees of the function of the GPO, and providers don't have to worry about that part, and they're given back the dollars. But at the same time, it does confuse the value, the actual price value. So, I think that it's worthy of the GPOs and those that are innovators to be helping to reach the best price value, to reconsider what is the best model. And, I could be dead wrong in this, but I don't see the largest national GPOs voluntarily upsetting the model. And I don't know that I believe that it's in the best interest of the industry, my personal take at this point, because it's so confusing in value and having to chase down all of the dollars between the parties, and it's just not as transparent or simple as it could be.
Fantastic. Okay. Yeah. Third question. Assumed value. So you fairly much were answering some of the questions here. But if 95% of the hospitals, 97% of the hospitals operate under GPO contracts, and that 55 billion is actually returned in value. Okay. When you were in this environment, the value of the GPO model said something you could demonstrate at the transaction level, or it was a shared assumption that the system never really pressure tested it. Right?
Yeah, I think, I think it is fair to look at the value of a GPO beyond just the pricing. So, I hear from health systems that it is quite valuable to have the contracting process that's done. I could probably challenge, is that as efficient as it should be? Is it, I think that there's a lot of technology opportunity within the sourcing and the contracting space. But when it comes to the actual dollars and pricing of a GPO, I think it's two parts. I think for the provider, it often is a starting point for many to have to go in and continue negotiations. And you kind of have to scratch your head and say, well, wait a minute, isn't that the point of the GPO? Like, aren't you having to go, aren't they supposed to be going and getting your best price? And then I also hear from the other side of the aisle with suppliers, there isn't the same governance that needs to happen to ensure the level of standardization opportunity, the level of committed volume that goes through. And I'm speaking generally, but there can be a real discontent on the supplier side that, hey, we got awarded, we're paying administrative fees. How much are you actually helping me with new business? And then how much are you actually helping me with standardization and moving the committed dollars that a provider will say that it will give in order to move the dollars over, and that doesn't quite happen.
I totally get that, right? Because, for a small organization that wants to go into a GPO contract, first of all, the administration process and the legal process to, let's say, embark on the effort to be a GPO awarded supplier is huge.
Yes.
Right. And then,
very lengthy. And by the time that the price is given and set, it's months later, that, and again, I come from an Amazon world of dynamic pricing. Like, to be fair to all parties, there are events, whether that's tariffs or, a change in supply and demand, and that you've got to be more real time, not some lagging indicators of a price that you had provided months ago, and then the world has changed. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Done.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
This feels very familiar.
Yes, it does. Yes.
So, Jeremy, we're now going into the first number of sessions on the one-to-one. Asked Bill the same question, so I'm going to ask the same question to you. And obviously, traditionally, we get two different points of view.
Yep.
Okay. So I've given you the context now with regards to the topic of the conversation. And now we're going to peel the onion back associated with this. So block one that we're actually talking about is everything to do about the accountability gap. Okay. So your 7 minutes starts from now.
All right.
Okay. So a $300 billion industry operating on assumed value. Topic one. I love the smile already. Okay. The missing benchmark.
Yes.
The GPO model has been in operation for over a century.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. The industry influences over $300 billion worth of spend, and yet there is no standardization methodology for measuring what a health system actually saved versus what it would have paid without a GPO contract. Okay. And I'll reflect on what you actually talked about in the introduction as well. But Jeremy, have you ever been presented with a credible transaction level proof of savings, or is the value of the GPO legacy relationship taken on faith?
Wow. A credible, I would say the savings are always a bit ethereal, because of what it's savings from what?
Yep.
Right? Savings from retail price. I probably would have never paid retail price even if I didn't have a GPO. Savings from what I could do myself.
But did you know if it was a retail price, though?
No, that's true. That's exactly right, because retail price, with knowing that manufacturers can change those, whatever. Yeah. So it is hard to do that. So the hard number of how much it saves, I'm not sure how you would get to that number. But at the same time, it's not taken fully at face value either. There's a reason almost all hospitals participate in a GPO.
Yeah.
And it is because there is some value in grouping things around, especially those commodity products of scale on both sides, right? So,
but you mentioned the number before, right? That only 20% of your spend is only with a GPO.
Yeah.
So to get to that number, should it be 20%, 40%, 30%, 10%?
Yes, and I think it's a key aspect of it. Depends on the health system, right? I think that is it's how great your sourcing, or not great, how expansive your sourcing department is, the capabilities they have. The more you have, the more you can tackle on your own and say, I want to get my own local agreements to improve upon that. So there is that's where it varies. Like if you don't have the resources, you're going to rely more on GPO contracts. If you do have resources, you're going to take more into your own hands. Except there is spots that manufacturers will only go through the GPO, right? So those ones you're kind of
hamstrung
a little bit, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Good. So, topic 2. The one time someone checked, and
The one time someone checked?
in 2002.
Oh, yes.
The GAO, conducted that. So the audit office,
Yes.
conducted that one survey in 2002, and considering that the model is 100 years old, and found that a number of categories on GPO pricing was not lower than market, in some cases a lot higher. So the question that I pose to you is, where have you seen potential room that could allow you to elevate the value health systems get through partnering with GPOs? And have you tried to implement something to enhance this? So,
Well, I think the first part of that is the price variation, right? Like why GPO, like it goes back to that bigger health systems with more capabilities.
Yep.
You can negotiate better prices. I always think of it as that's as low as I want to go. But I negotiate my own local agreement. It better be better than the GPO agreement, right?
Right.
And so,
did you measure that with regards to how much is actually lower than the GPO contract? To your point, that's your benchmark.
Yeah.
And then your local contract is going to be.
Yeah, my local contracts, we wouldn't go with them if they weren't lower. So by nature, that creates that variation, right? Where I'm not surprised health systems or the pricing's different for lower for ones that don't go GPO or are not using the GPO for that, because that's why we do it.
But the interesting concept about this, right, is the supplier is spent a whole lot of money to actually get onto the GPO contract and is saying, where is my opportunity of business? I've signed up for a GPO. I'm expecting this level of volume, or this is my market share. Is there still a lot of counter when you're doing your local agreement versus the GPO, that the GPO is fighting for the supplier to actually get that additional spend?
No, that I don't ever feel pressure from the GPO to go with their supplier on those aspects. And the suppliers, I think they think of it. I'd love to hear. I'll have to listen to Bill's answer on that. Yeah. But I do think suppliers think of it as access to all those systems that don't. Like they don't have the capabilities. They are more reliant on it. So that is your entry, right? So that's very important to them for that aspect. I think for bigger systems, the GPO doesn't get in the way of systems getting their own value out of it. I've never experienced that.
Okay. And then topic number 3, assumed value. So let's explore the thinking that's associated with this. So if 95 to 97% of hospitals operate under a GPO contract, and the Supply Chain Association claims 55 billion in annual savings, and where both of these figures are widely cited, does that number actually reflect anything that you measure inside your organisation? So even with the 20%, do you think that you're getting 18.3%?
That's a good question. I don't know, actually. I don't really measure again, from what? Like, I don't know how to measure their impact other than it being my floor exam, right? Like, does it improve? I think it's better than if I didn't have that. Like, but that as far as like, did I get 18% of it? You could probably make an argument that you could make an argument it's bigger. You can make an argument it's smaller.
It's pretty open, isn't it?
It is very open. Yes, there's not.
So I wonder
there's not a clear dynamic in how you would do that. Yeah.
Okay, done. Oh, perfect. 7 minutes done.
That's a first.
Yeah. Well, no. You're normally the better one.
I'm normally the better one.
Yeah. Just for taking, Luis absolutely rattles on a little bit. You're the best one with regards to this. I'll make sure that, we keep that on camera.
Yeah. I think you asked about value. I should have, because there is other value we get out of it, but like other ways to do it. But
yeah,
because I forgot that last part of that question. So something like, what do we do about trying to get more value, right?
Yeah.
It's just like you do your own. It's weirdly you do your own aggregation underneath an aggregation group, like extra, right? Or you partner with other GPO people to say we're going to make a group that we can even go better pricing together. Yeah,
I know, but that in itself, right?
Is,
tells a massive story about the value that the GPO actually brings. Because the question would be, the GPO flooring pricing is the beginning.
Yes.
Now
it's become an industry
aggregation point.
Yeah.
Now you're bringing another, what's the, what Rush belongs to? That's
MPC.
Yeah. So that in itself,
says it's not bringing enough value.
Yeah, so it's here, the GPO, and now you've actually, joined up with all these other hospital systems to actually say, well, we can actually get better pricing than them, as opposed to, if they're the benchmark, as opposed to the OEM or the distributor, then...
No, it's because it's because the industry has become like culturally how we do this industry. So you have to be part of it, but it's not the value from a pricing isn't there. It's really what it's about. That's why GPOs are switching to like bringing value in different ways. They have so much data. How do they use their data to drive value? Things like that. But
no, well, we've captured that, but that's a brilliant segue and entry point. Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Jeremy.